Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Football Kentron. My name is Adam and today I am joined by the usual suspects Armin and Chadens, but we have something a little special planned for you today. A little Christmas gift you might call it. Enjoy.
Today with us we have the Baron of Braces, the Armenian Assassin, the Crossword King, Turnpike Thierry Henry, the number one draft pick from New Jersey, the president of DC, Eski Sports Own, one Sultani please, your MLS Cup MVP's favorite MLS Cup MVP, Alecko Eskandarian. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. What an intro. I can honestly say I've never received an intro like that in my life. So thank you. I feel very, very welcome.
You can have it. You can record it. Take it with you. Play it to your friends. Tell them all about it. Tell them, say, I got compared to Thierry Henry. You are. You to me, to us, you are the Turnpike Thierry Henry. That's. How are you doing today?
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We know you're very busy. We know you just announced the jersey auction that you're going to be doing for charity. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for all the initiatives that you've taken over the past few months with everything going on in Hayastan and in Artsakh. We really appreciate you using your platform and your voice to do essentially everything you can possibly do to help. All right, so let's get right into it. Alecko, you're an Armenian, you're a diasporan Armenian, and you grew up in New Jersey. What was that like?
It was, it was amazing. I have so much pride of being from Jersey and growing up there and kind of learning, so much of who I am. Like my identity definitely was blossomed in Jersey. I think as I've gotten older and I look back, you start to try to make sense of certain things, and once you meet people from other places, you're like, oh man, maybe that wasn't normal, or you realize in other places it's not quite the same experience. But for me, I loved it because New Jersey is such a hotbed of different cultures, and obviously being Armenian, my parents are Persian Armenian, both of them born in Tehran. My parents speak with an accent. I spoke with an accent when I was growing up. I went to Hovnanian Bajaran for school for 10 years, from nursery when I was 3 years old until I graduated 8th grade at age 13. So Armenians grew up in a bubble, right? And I loved it in that I got a unique experience of being, around Armenians, going to an Armenian school, learning Armenian. And it was a very small school. I only had, I think my graduating class had 8 kids in the entire grade, right? Because there's not that many Armenians in New Jersey. There just aren't. So we had classes in trailer. It was a unique experience. But I had a life outside of that where I was playing football, I was playing soccer, and I had all my Odar friends as well, the kids that I grew up playing with. And on my club teams in Jersey, you had all different kinds of ethnicities: Jamaicans, Colombians, Peruvians, Italians, whatever it was, right? All sorts of different backgrounds and ethnicities. So at a very young age, it almost became my role to teach people about who I am, because obviously I have a bit of a unique name. So whenever people try to say my name, they're like, what are you? Right? It was kind of like a puzzle that no one can figure out. Wait, what are you, bro? I've never heard that name before. So from a young age, I took it on as a duty to just say I'm Armenian, and this is our history and our background, our traditions, and all that stuff. So I embraced that role, and I became really proud. Even by my early teens, I was really proud of man, I've taught so many people about what Armenia is and what Armenians are. And yeah, it was, I loved it. Looking back, there were certainly some moments that were interesting where you like, try to figure out, are you a minority? Are you not? Like do I belong anywhere? Like trying to just navigate through those waters. But like I said, I think we just had so many different backgrounds and ethnicities. It very much just became a pride thing. And for me, what I was always taught is to be extremely proud of where you're from and your journey to get to where you're at. So I just tried to wave that flag as hard and as strong as I could to try to represent for our people. And I think along the way, a lot of people took notice and took an interest into my background.
So how many different pronunciations of your last name have you heard?
You know what? Not as many as my first name, because people, even with my first name, it was always like, is it Alecko, Alecko, this, that? Like, it was all Alecko. Like, I got teased when I was a kid because there was that Lego My Ego commercial. So all the kids were like, oh, Lego My Ego. But I essentially, just to make it easier on Odas, adopted like Alecko. But my parents call me Alecko. My name's Alecko. Every Armenian knows me as Alecko. So that was like its own separate thing. With my last name, I could usually just see when people were just struggling to even like say, like when the teacher was taking attendance and they're like, and I'm like, that's me, Eskandarian. Yeah, that's me. But yeah, even that,
Classic.
You just say the letters and it's Eskandarian, but obviously in Armenian it's Eskandarian. So yeah, again, part of the process, man, part of the process.
Yeah, it is a process. Well, another thing that you know of very well, and that is also a process, is becoming a professional footballer. In your head, in your mind, is there a specific moment or a seminal moment where that you can remember where you decided, this is it, I'm going to be a professional footballer?
Yeah, I think I had a couple of different moments. The first thing I would have to say is my father is a legend of the sport. My dad was a professional footballer, played for the New York Cosmos, played for Iran in the '78 World Cup, and is highly regarded by many as being one of the best players in Persian football history.
No pressure.
And one of the Yeah, and one of the greatest defenders in the world. I mean, he was on the World All-Star team, So for me, it was always interesting because I didn't comprehend any of that. To me, it was just my dad, And I would always see people like wanting to take pictures with him or get his autograph, or I would watch him kick around, and people loved him and respected him so much. So it was always a weird thing that I like just kind of blocked out, where I was like, it's just my dad. I don't know why they're being weird, right? So at a certain point, when I got old enough to realize, like, oh no, like my dad like shut out Maradona. My dad played with Pelé. My dad, played against and with all these guys that I looked at as heroes. Then it started to click of like, oh, I might want to listen when he speaks to me about these things. So I kind of went through that process, and then I very much grew up just playing in my town locally, and I always had a huge chip on my shoulder. I was Chad. Like I have an older brother who's like a saint, and then I was like the bad one. Like I had a big mouth. I didn't always, follow the rules. And so I got punished often. And soccer was my therapy. It was my release. Like it was my opportunity to just get out there, burn off energy, do something that I was good at, be creative. And it was my escape from being second best to my brother inside my house, right? So that's how it all started. And finally I got to an age where people were like, hey, you should try out for the state team and the regional team and the national team and all these different things. And at first I was like, ooh, I'm not ready for that. I just play for fun and with my friends locally. And then I'm obviously super, super competitive. So once I like got my foot in the door and I felt the taste of failure, that's when, I made a promise to myself that I'll never allow myself to feel that again. So, just getting cut and different things like that at age 14, 15. I would say by age 16, I was like, okay, I'm on a mission now where I know what I need to do, and I'm not going to let, any excuse get in the way of whether it's, politics or I didn't get picked because of this or that or the coach or that. Then it was like, okay, I know what I need to do. And every time I step on the field, I'm going to go out there and prove it with a huge chip on my shoulder and, show the world who I am. That was kind of my mentality from age 16, 17 on.
Yeah, and it obviously seems to work for you.
Yeah, it's necessary. If I'm being totally honest, there's always the expression that like nice guys finish last, right? And I don't totally prescribe to that. I don't agree with that, because one of the most important lessons my dad taught me was, if you want to be a good soccer player, first you have to be a good person. And that was really important to me, because it's all, it takes a whole lot of discipline. It takes an obsession with your craft, right? We're talking about a lot of hours of watching, thinking, playing, training, like nonstop, to get an edge and to improve. So it forced me to like really take responsibility and accountability. But also, when you step on the field, you have to have a poor man's mentality. Soccer is a poor man's sport. When there's a 50-50 ball, is it the guy that goes home to a silver spoon, or the kid that that stomach is rumbling because he's hungry, who's going to win that ball, right? And so I got that very much from my dad of, I don't care what you have off the field, or if you're in a public school, private school, if you have $1 million or $0, when you step on the field, you have to be a poor man. And like I said, at around age 15, 16, you would think I was broke and homeless with the way I was out there on the field fighting and scrapping. And that's just something that to this day I'll always keep with me, because that's what you have to have. And it's just passion, right? When you step on that field, you have to have that hunger and that love for the game, or else it's going to pass you by.
So something that's kind of unique to the American football system is the college game. That's something that we don't really see in other countries. And it's something that you really don't hear about often. You never really hear about players speaking on their college experience. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like being a football player on a college team? And what was that experience all about?
Yeah, college is very much part of the culture here in the U.S. And obviously for, I would say, most families here, but in particular my own, education is a priority. And that is, I think, one of the great resources of our country is offering that higher education and providing students, and in particular student athletes, with a pathway to play their sport but still continue to get their education. And yeah, it was never, I had some offers to be a pro coming out of high school when I was around 17, but ultimately I wanted to go to school. I had a passion for knowledge as well, and I ended up committing to the University of Virginia, which for me was the perfect balance between great soccer and great academics. And I very much had proved myself there as well, because like I said, I was known in my area, right? Everyone in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, they knew who I was and what kind of player I was. But outside of that, I played for a poor club team. Like, we didn't travel, we didn't go to any fancy tournaments. I never won a state cup. I never, been to any prestigious events. So there was very much a lack of, I guess, national recognition, where at UVA, all of the players were national team starters and had huge reputations and all that stuff. So I went into UVA with, I always say this, the lowest scholarship of any of the scholarship players on the team. And my coach had never even seen me play before I got there. I was fortunate that an assistant coach had watched me somewhere and like convinced me to come. And my head coach told me, listen, you're probably going to have to redshirt your first year, and you're not going to play much. And I made a deal with my parents, unbeknownst to my coach, that I said, I just want one semester at UVA to see if I belong. And if I don't belong, then I'll just stop. And I actually had been accepted into Princeton. So I said, if I can't cut it as a soccer player at UVA, I'll transfer, I'll go to Princeton. And honestly, in my head, I was like, I'll probably move away from soccer and I'll just focus on academics. So I went into UVA on a mission, and that first year I went from the coach telling me that I wasn't going to play at all and redshirt to then breaking the school record for goals and assists. So right there in that year, everything changed for me in terms of national recognition. And after that, it was just a matter of when, not if, I'd be a pro. But being in school is a unique experience in that you're balancing academics with a pretty heavy workload on the athletic side. But I loved it because you got to meet so many awesome people who are playing different sports, who are masters of their own fields. And UVA is near and dear to my heart, and I try to make it back to Charlottesville anytime that I can.
Were there any other universities in the West Coast or any other parts of the countries that showed interest in you at the time?
It's funny, like I said, it was I would go to a few events here and there where there'd be like actual top recruits, but the first school that ever recruited me was actually Stanford, and they had a great coach there named Bobby Clark, and this is at a time where I was like fringe, like I wasn't even starting for my state team or anything. I would just come in and play for 20, 30-minute spurts, and credit to him because he had the eye for it. And right off the bat, he was like, I see something in this kid, and I want to talk to him. So Stanford was the first, and then late in the game, UCLA tried to convince me as well. But my parents were like, "Look, it's too far of a trip."
I'm a Trojan.
I know. Most Armenians are USC Trojans for sure. I feel like that's like the overwhelming Armenian choice, right, for USC.
But we have a healthy mix. Of both, for sure. Okay.
But yeah, those were the two schools in California that showed interest. But my parents were like, look, we're not gonna pay for a flight every time to come watch you play, so you better pick something relatively nearby. But UVA was my dream. They had all these great national team players, and they had a pipeline from New Jersey, guys like John Hartz and Tony Miola, Claudio Reyna. Those are guys that I looked up to. And they all went to UVA, so I kind of want to follow in their footsteps.
So at that stage, or at what stage rather, did U.S. Soccer approach you and start recruiting you?
Yeah, I got my first call up to the under-17 national team when I was just turning 17 years old, or right before I turned 17 years old. That was the first time that I got recognized and I got called in. I played in a few matches, and it was late in the game because it was right before the Under-17 World Cup. And I came in, I did really well, and then the coach at the time pulled me aside, and he said, listen, I'll be honest, didn't expect you to do this well, and you're making my job really difficult because I already had a set team to take to the Under-17 World Cup. And he told me, he said, you absolutely deserve to be on this team, but I have other players that have been in residency for over 2 years training for this, and I don't feel right cutting them in order to include you when you've only been here for a month. So I got cut. So I got cut from the Under-17 World Cup team, and I took a really, really, really tough. It was a tough pill to swallow, just because I knew I didn't do anything wrong. It was like you guys were late in finding me, right? So like I'm being punished because you guys didn't scout properly. And it just opened my eyes to like, no one's going to open the door for you, so break it down. And if I'm being totally honest, I'm probably actually really grateful for that experience because it lit a fire under me like never before, which is why I went to UVA which is why I want to prove myself, and which is why that my freshman year, I was like, I'm going to force them to have to talk about me. And I'm not going to let them have any excuse of like, oh, we didn't know about him or we didn't see him. I was on a mission to be like, all right, if you're involved in the game, you're going to hear about me.
So just for our own curiosity, we kind of also want to know, was there any approach from the Armenian Football Federation for you? Were there any conversations? Did they call you? Did they send you a letter? I don't know how they did it at that time, but was there any sort of concrete interest from Armenia?
Yeah, it's interesting because there were always conversations, lots of conversations, but I don't remember ever getting anything official. I think at one point there was I think I remember receiving a letter at one point just saying that they were watching and they were proud of me and things like that. But there was never any official invitation or training camp invite or anything like that I ever received. Because there was also chatter from Iran as well, because my dad played for Iran. So as soon as I got called into the under-17 U.S. team, after that is when any kind of Armenian or Iranian scouts began to take interest. And for me, I told you, huge chip on my shoulder. I'm always about proving people wrong. And, if I'm being totally honest, I then was like loyal to the U.S., where I was like, you can't just show interest in me now just because they want me. Like, where were you before? Yeah. So I definitely had a little bit of, a little bit of like, well, look, the U.S. found me and finally, even though it was late, and are now kind of, inviting me into their environment.
Now everyone wants a piece of Alecko.
Well, that's the thing is like, you always have to prove yourself, right? And for me, it's about it's loyalty. And so once I committed to the U.S., I was loyal to that. But especially later on in my career, I would have loved it if Armenia or the Armenian National Team would have made a strong approach. I absolutely would have considered playing with them at least on the full national team level.
Yeah, I think they're taking a little bit more aggressive approach now. I don't know. Back in the day, they were probably a little bit more passive, a little more respectful of other, that you were a diasporan from the U.S. and so on. But maybe if it was today.
Well, not only that, you have to remember the Armenian National Team in those days was not in a good place. Like they were, as I remember, they were kind of getting blown out of most matches. I don't think they even had the resources. Like, if I had to bet, they probably wouldn't even be able to fly me down to go play for them. Like that's an expensive ticket. So I don't know that they even had the means or the resources to do it. So I never had any ill will by any stretch, right? It was always a dream to someday have it become a reality to play for any full national team. But yeah, I never received anything super concrete.
Interesting. Well, you were an angry kid, chip on your shoulder, had something to prove, and you ended up being the first overall draft pick in the 2003 MLS Super Draft, which is on its own an incredible achievement. And what was that time like for you? Obviously, this is something that is a life-changing event for many American athletes. And so hearing your name get called or getting the notice that, you were drafted, and not only were you drafted, but you were the draft pick. What was that like?
I was just proud. But my pride comes from the work that other people invested in me. So, like I said, I was always, the reason I had that chip on my shoulder is because I always felt I was, second fiddle to my older brother at home. I was always kind of like the child kid, like who would kind of, I was always joking around, not taking things too seriously. And I really owe a lot to my parents, to my coaches, my teachers, some fantastic friends who really motivated me, inspired me, and showed me the way. Like I'd be nowhere without all those people in my life who were constantly kind of hammering into my head what it means to be a good person, what it means to be a good son, a good brother, a good friend, a good student. All those things were so important. And if I'm being honest, I always feel, and even to this day, I'm like this. I felt like I was letting them down, right? Because if I use just my own parents as an example, my parents are amazing, such good people, and I strive to be like them so much, and I can't. Like they're just better people than I am, but they always gave me a standard. They set a standard for me to try to reach, and all I wanted was to make them proud. That's it. And so being the number one pick, I knew I couldn't dwell on it too much because at the end in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like it's an accomplishment for sure, but you have to, throw it away into the memory bank, or else, like there's a quote that I love: if you want to be number one, you have to train like you're number two, right? So for me, I still have to have that number two mentality in my head. So I never really dwelled on any accomplishments too long, but being selected with the number one pick, being the only Armenian I think ever drafted at that point, and to be the number one pick was just a sense of pride for me that I hope that people that invested in me took pride in it. Like I wasn't going to celebrate it, but I hope they did because they earned it just as much as I did.
That's good to hear.
It's an awesome approach.
Yeah, definitely. So as you know, last night was the MLS Cup final where the Columbus Crew blew out Seattle Sounders in a 3-0 win. Lucas Zelarayan, who was their designated pick from Argentina, became the third person to score 2 goals in an MLS Cup final. The other 2 are Landon Donovan and yourself. So it's 2004 MLS Cup final day here in Los Angeles, DC versus Kansas City Wizards. What was it like to be Alecko on that day?
It was amazing. It was a lifetime's worth of work that manifested itself into one day. There's so much that led to that, though. I was, like you said, the number one pick the year prior, and I really struggled in my rookie season to break through. I'd say we didn't have the best team that year. We didn't have, I would say, the best coach that year. It was tough to get opportunities, tough to get consistency. It was a struggle. And now, because I had that number one pick target on my back, now all of a sudden when I wasn't playing, it'd be like, oh, the number one pick is a bust. He's not even playing. He must not be that good. And you start hearing the whispers and the chatters and the media and the fans and things like that. And I knew I was good enough, and I just wasn't given the opportunity. And if you look back on my entire career, I've always been the type of guy that my first year, my first try at doing something, I usually am pretty closed off and almost shy and afraid to really express myself. And for whatever reason, the next year, I always then surpass expectations. It was like that when I was 14 years old. I got cut from the state team. And then the next year I made the regional team, but then I didn't make the national team, and then made the regional. So it was always taking me a year to, I guess, grow in confidence, or to just kind of get that I don't give enough mentality to just go for it. And that's what happened in the pros as well. My rookie year, when I was the number one pick, everyone wants to be my best friend. All of a sudden I'm not playing, and you see how quickly people jump off of the bandwagon, right? And I learned very clearly that year, hey, all I got is my family, my close friends. I have my own inner circle, and that's my team. Everyone else is just noise. And so when I went into that second year, I had that same chip on my shoulder of I don't care about anyone else. I'm going to go out there and show people what I can do. We had a new coach who also had that same mentality. So I thrived under him. His name is Peter Novak. And same immigrant mentality, Polish national team player, very much reminded me of my own dad, of just I don't care what your name is or what you've accomplished, you're going to earn it between the lines. And we're going to see who can earn a spot. And for me, if you're gonna draw a line and make it a fight, that's when I'm gonna, give it everything I have, and I won't leave anything, or I'll leave everything, on the field. So that year I was able to establish myself. Leading up to MLS Cup, like you said, it was kind of like the moment, right, where you're like, man, I've had all these different hurdles that I've gone through in my life, and now we're in a final. And I'll never forget, before that game, I always would organize I was with Athletes in Action, so we had a Bible study that we would try to do before matches and even on the road. And it was myself and another teammate of mine. Sorry, I've got New York City soundtrack in the background, so I apologize. But basically, I'll wait till this passes by.
It's okay though. It shows you're a real person.
Yeah, you're real.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we went to chapel to kind of hear a bit of a sermon, and the entire passage that we read right before that game was essentially like, why not you, right? Like, you can't always live life of in a way where you are counting on other people to do your things, right? Or to be on the sidelines. Like, at a certain point, you have to take responsibility for your actions. Stop looking for others to carry the load for you, and like, be your own man, be your own person. And I'm not kidding. When I was on the field that day, I was all pumped, playing in the game, first final, and 5 minutes in, Kansas City scores a goal, like rocket of a shot, and all of a sudden we're down 1-0, and I'm like, this isn't how we drew it up. Like, this wasn't what I envisioned in my dream, that Kansas City scores 5 minutes in, and they were a very good defensive team. So in my head, I'm like, crap, now that they have a lead, they're totally just going to shift and play defensively, and now
Jimmy
I'm going to have way less space, way less opportunities. And I'm like, damn, this is going to be so much more of an uphill battle now. And as the game was going on, when you're on the field playing, especially when there's a loud crowd, you don't hear anything, right? You don't hear anything except your own thoughts. And when I was out there on the field, I was just having internal dialogue with myself of like, make this play, like, I'm going to make this run or this. Like, you're just talking to yourself. And I remember telling myself, like, I hope Jaime Moreno, like, goes on one of his runs and scores a goal and ties this game up for us. Like, I hope Christian Gomez will, like, smash this free kick. I hope this. I hope that. I hope this. I hope that. I hope we catch a break. And finally, it was almost like it just snapped, where I just remembered the Bible passage we were reading, and I was like, wait a minute. Stop waiting for someone else to do something. Like, why not me? Why not me, right? Why not me step in and me help out my team when we need it? And I literally, like, nodded. I swear, if there's, like, video of me, I think I, like, nodded to myself when I, like, made the decision, like, okay, I'm going to do something here. And sure enough, like, within a 5-minute span, I scored 2 goals and was involved in the third. And we took the lead and we won the championship. But it was just very serendipitous the way it all kind of manifested itself. And I couldn't be more proud, especially in LA, in front of so many Armenians that were there. And I saw the Armenian flags in the stands. So I felt the love, and it was just a great day to represent my family and my culture on that day.
Wow.
So you scored 2 goals against the Jimmy Conrad-led defense, and you became MLS Cup champion. You were named MLS Cup MVP. So it's safe to say you reached a lot of heights that a lot of players aspire to. As a professional player, how do you maintain that motivation after such an achievement so early on in your professional career?
Yeah, it was tough because I was only 21 years old, I believe. I was 21 or 22 at the time. And in many ways, it's like, damn, I didn't expect this to happen this quickly. And And yeah, I definitely, I think, went through a bit of a struggle of where now you almost try to do more and you set even higher expectations. And I would say going into that next off season, I probably tried to think like, oh damn, I have to go to a different level and I have to have different expectations. And maybe I carried myself a little bit differently as well too, and put most importantly, I put too much pressure on myself to do well. And yeah, I think I struggled with it a little bit early on. I remember specifically in that preseason, like I think I was a lot angrier, like just angrier with myself if like things didn't come off, or like if I scored one goal instead of three, like I was angry because I was like, damn, like I've reached this point. Now I need to get here, and it wasn't coming easy. And now I had an X on my back as well, where opponents were treating me different, and it was, you know, opponents had that underdog mentality against me now, where I was getting their best every single time, and yeah, it was something to deal with, of course, but then it all got derailed because I had a bad concussion that next year, and that totally killed my dreams of going to the 2006 World Cup, because I missed the entire 2005 season. And yeah, when I went through that concussion that ended my year, and in some ways like ended my career, it flipped my life upside down, where you realize how human and how vulnerable we are, and how everything can change in 1 second. So it was a crazy whirlwind. You know, when you think about my life, especially in like 6-month or 12-month microcosms, it's crazy to see what a roller coaster ride it is. So I definitely went through a lot that over those 12 months.
So was there any sort of interest or personal interest for you to move to Europe at any point in your career? Was there any tangible interest from any clubs? Was that ever a goal of yours, or were you happy in the MLS and being close to home and being able to, you know, play in the American League?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I think I was just talking to my parents about it the other day, where I was like, guys, why didn't you push me harder to go? But yeah, there was interest. Like I said, when I was 17, 18, there was interest to go to Italy and some other places. When I was 19, I was in Denmark at Aalborg, and I spent a month there. And then when I was 20, before I signed with MLS, I was with the U.S. Olympic team, and we went on a trip to Portugal, where I actually played against Cristiano Ronaldo when Cristiano was, I think, 17 or 18 at the time. And his club, I scored a goal against them. And afterward, I had interest from Sporting Lisbon to sign in Portugal. So with all those clubs that had interest, if I'm being totally honest, I was probably the deciding factor, where I told my parents, like, no, I want to start my career in the U.S. I traveled a lot to Europe, and I'd been all over, and there was something that just like didn't feel right to me about calling. And back then, it shows you how old I am, right? Like I didn't have a cell phone or anything like that, so it was like payphone, calling card, and like being at a payphone in the middle of Denmark or Portugal and calling my parents, be like, hey, I scored 2 goals today, like I played pretty well, and then being like, oh, cool, well, it's late here, so we're gonna go to bed. I'm like, okay, but you know, it just didn't seem, I didn't feel that connection, and I've been very close to my family my whole life, and so yeah, I would say that I decided not to go forward with that. There definitely were opportunities, and looking back, that probably is one of my regrets of not going there and gaining that experience. It probably would have helped my development a whole lot, and I probably would have made a whole lot more money as well. But you know, that's the path that I chose, and you know, I have to live with it.
Speaking of transitions, in 2017, you made it your entire career in the East Coast, where it's the most Armenian franchise in the MLS. So you, Artur Agasyan, Yura Movsisyan, Did that anything have to do with the move? And what was it like in the RSL?
So it's funny you mentioned that. When I went to Real Salt Lake, I was the only Armenian there, and when I got there, the new head coach was Jason Kreis, right? He had just taken over as the head coach, and when he became head coach, he pulled me and a couple other players aside, and he's like, "Look, I want to change the culture here, and I want to bring in top players, and I know as a former player that players themselves know who other top guys are. So he's like, if you know of any other players that you think are really good, that are maybe unhappy where they are or aren't playing much, let me know." So I knocked on Jason's door and I said, "Listen, man, I'm friends with this guy named Yura Movsisyan, and I think you should bring him here to RSL." And Jason was like, "Listen, I've heard he has a little bit of an attitude issue and a chip on his shoulder." And I'm like, "He's Armenian. We all have a chip on our shoulder. Like, trust me, it's not an issue." And I'm like, "I know he's a very good player, and he's just not being given the opportunities in Kansas City, and he's really frustrated." So he said, "Okay, I'm gonna go watch some video and we'll think about it." I said, "Okay." Called me, I think we're in the road actually, and he called me to his hotel room and he said, "Listen, we're gonna make a trade for Yura Movsisyan, but here's the deal: like, you're responsible for him if I bring him in. Like, if he starts misbehaving or acting out of sorts, like, it's on you. So like, I need you to like really put your arm around him and help him." I said, "Yeah, no problem. I'd be happy to." So that's how we brought Yura in. Came to RSL. And in the beginning, it was a little bit rough around the edges for sure. I had to keep him from like fighting some of our teammates and things like that. But we got along great. It was awesome to have a fellow Armenian on the team. But then I left him at the end of the year because at the end of the year, I got into a bit of a contract negotiation with RSL. And I made the decision actually then to go to Europe again. I went to Belgium, and I was in Belgium for a month, and I was about to sign a contract in Belgium. And then when my agent called MLS to let them know, I was basically kind of given an ultimatum where they said, "What will it take for you to stay in MLS?" And I said, "I'll only stay in MLS if I'm playing in New York or in LA." And so suddenly Chivas USA came in the picture. And they said, "Okay, we have an offer for you to move to LA, but you have 24 hours to decide." And so I'm sitting in a hotel room in Belgium, and I'm like, "Man, I've been waiting my whole career to play either in New York or LA. Now the time came." So again, I passed on the European offer, and I took the offer in LA. And Yura got upset with me because he's like, "Bro, you brought me here and then you left." But that's how it goes sometimes.
And after that season in Utah, where you moved to LA and played for Chivas USA and Galaxy, what was it like where it's the most Armenian city, specifically Glendale?
It was amazing, man. I have a lot of family in LA, in Glendale, so it was the best experience for me to be able to go eat kebab whenever I wanted to get invited to dinners every weekend, and just to share those experiences with my family, to bring my cousins out to my games, and to kind of just like expose Armenians to like this different world that I don't think they had been exposed to. So I tried to do as much as I could within the community, with like HomeNet Men or AGBU or the different schools and churches and things like that. And I know the clubs that I was with, Chivas and LA, they both started promoting to the Armenian communities. So it was awesome, man. I in some ways I wish I did more, but I told you I always like wanted to block out. Like I've never been good with compliments, right? Like I'd rather block them out and not hear them. So in some ways I had to keep a healthy distance from the Armenian community because I didn't want to always be showered with their praises, because I'm like, no, I have to have the underdog mentality and keep working hard. But it truly felt amazing to be surrounded by Armenians and hopefully help inspire the next generation.
I don't think Armenians would shy away from giving you criticism.
No, listen, no matter what criticism anyone gives me, I'm my own biggest critic. So nothing will measure up to the standard that I hold myself. And if I'm being totally honest, there's also certain criticism that if the person that's giving it doesn't know what they're talking about, you just can't even hold any credence to it. So.
Actually, we would like to fit in a question from our listeners. How do you feel about diving for fouls in football as a whole?
About what? Sorry?
About diving for fouls in football as a whole. What do you think about it?
Yeah. So it's a tough one, right? Because I hate diving. I know myself. I pride myself on never being a guy who dove, and clearly with the injuries that I had, I didn't shy away from contact. Maybe I should have dove and moved out of the way most times. But the part that like the greater or people that have never played the game at a high level, what they don't understand is that anytime these guys dive, they're just trying to help their team. Right? They're helping to dupe the referee, to trick the referee in order to gain an advantage that will help their team, that will help their club, and that will help their fans. Right? So, and that's why you see a lot of diving, especially in South America and different places, because they have so much passion and they have so much loyalty to the game, that diving is seen as like, oh, you're just doing what you can to help out your family, essentially, right? So it's just like a different way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's gotten out of hand. I think it's gotten a little bit better in recent years, especially now with VAR and video review. It's everything is now being held accountable. So I think it is being cleaned up. But yeah, there was a while there where it was totally ridiculous because human error is part of the sport with a human referee, and players were just doing what they could to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Like you mentioned before, unfortunately, your career was ended shortly after missing time for some injuries and a serious concussion. What are some measures that the sport can take to help mitigate these type of injuries, specifically concussions?
It's tough. It's a contact sport. I don't think there's anything you can do to totally get rid of concussions. If you look at, so I think I had 4 or 5 bad concussions in my career that, like, when I say bad, meaning I don't remember. Like, I was knocked out or I had amnesia, like, don't even remember what happened. And each one of those was totally different. And I don't think any of them, maybe I would say 1 or maybe 2 of them were like a dirty play, but the other ones are just a result of, 2 players going at it at full speed. We don't have helmets or padding or anything like that. And when you jar into each other, it's going to cause a collision. And even if you had padding, which at one point in my career I was wearing a headband, it's not going to prevent anything because a concussion can be caused simply from whiplash. Right? Just like if you're in a car accident and your neck gets jolted, when you have an unexpected force that hits you and causes your brain to sway back and forth, that's what a concussion is your brain banging back and forth inside your skull. So there's no way to ever, stop that in any sport, if we're being honest. But it's one of those things that has been really important for me to be an advocate of raising awareness, to finding new ways to rehabilitate, to make sure athletes, coaches, trainers, that they're treating this injury seriously, because it could absolutely alter your life. And as we've seen, there have been plenty of athletes who have ended their own lives, who've taken their own lives as a result of not being able to cope with the aftermath of concussion. So I take it very seriously to try to help as many people as I can to raise awareness, get education around it, and make sure no one has to go through what I went through. Because even for me, it was for about 2 years a very dark period. To retire at age 27 when I felt like I was just in my prime and scoring goals with the Galaxy, finally finding the joy in the game again, playing with Beckham and Donovan and this great team. And for, again, the rug to be pulled from under me was really, really tough, because I didn't just lose soccer. I lost my identity. I lost my love. And now it's like everything that you spent your whole life working for, now you can't do ever again. And it's a really, really tough realization to come to.
That's unfortunate to hear. I think education is the biggest push at this point, raising awareness, like you said. Moving on to post-playing career and coaching, you ended up at the New York Cosmos. What was your time like there, especially with the family connection?
It was fantastic. It was interesting because when my career ended, I was trying to figure out what my purpose was, in life, in the sport. So in the beginning, I started doing some like commentary things with the Galaxy, and it just got too hard to watch. It got too hard to watch my friends and teammates and my peers play, knowing I was still 27 at the time, and I felt like I had so much more to give to the sport and to the fans. I needed to just step away. So I ended up leaving Los Angeles. I moved back to Charlottesville, Virginia. I decided to go finish my degree because I left college early to go pro. And I just got away from the sport. I got away from soccer. I didn't. I tried to stop watching and just focus on my academics and just almost finding a distraction, for me to just kind of reinvent myself. And through there, when I was at UVA, when I was in school, a couple of the kids that were on the men's soccer team, like, noticed me in a class, and they're like, "Wait a minute, like, we didn't even, like, are you going to school here? What are you doing here?" And they got all excited that a guy who was a pro was now all of a sudden just taking like regular chemistry classes with them and stuff like that. So they started saying, a couple of these kids were like, "Hey, can you come to practice? Can you come or can you watch my games? Can you help me out? Can you give me pointers?" So at that point, the head coach found out that I was there because I didn't tell him either. And he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, I'd love it if you could come to training and maybe talk to the kids." So then I agreed to be a volunteer coach. And during that time, I realized, like, man, even though I'm going through this huge, stressful, depression of not being able to play, I'm like, man, I've learned so much through soccer, and the game has taught me so much that it's my responsibility to pass this down to these other kids who are like praying to get into the position that I was once in, right? So from then on, I became a volunteer coach. And I just found passion in like just helping other kids to not make any of the mistakes that I made. So I got into coaching in that regard, and I ended up taking a job in Philadelphia as a youth technical director. And then after that, the New York Cosmos came calling. Giovanni Savarese, who is now a head coach for the Portland Timbers, he was telling me about the project with the New York Cosmos, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Listen, he's like, I'm the head coach, but if I'm being totally honest, like, you probably deserve to be the face of this new project, given the family ties. So he's like, I need you to be part of this." And yeah, he just built a great vision of what he was trying to build, and it seemed like a great project that I wanted to be part of. So I decided to join, and we had an amazing, successful 4 years together coaching, where we won 3 championships, and I learned a lot, and it was great to have it all come full circle with the New York Cosmos signing my dad, which is what brought my family to this country, to then coaching them until the end was special.
And after experiencing coaching and player development, working with the youth, what was the transition like from coaching to now becoming the MLS player development head? How would you feel that your work can be applied to the Armenian football system?
Yeah, so towards the end of my tenure coaching, I started realizing I had a huge passion for everything that goes into building a team as well. So everything from scouting to negotiating contracts, like all those things. Like the way I looked at it was, if you do everything right before the season even starts, then the season almost doesn't even matter, right? Like if you get things right in terms of building your squad in the right way, where you have depth, you have veterans, you have young guys, like all these different things, that's more important than the job that you do on the field. Like that eases everything else. So I took a huge passion in doing that, and I give a lot of credit to Gio for giving me the freedom and ability to go out and pursue those types of things. And the opportunity came where I had to ask myself, like, where do I see myself long term? Is it coaching or being in a front office? And I think I was just ready for the next challenge, and decided to take the job in the MLS front office at the MLS headquarters. And being in the player relations and player development department has been a great learning curve for me to work with all of our different clubs, different ownership groups, GMs, and just get an understanding of the identity of each of our MLS clubs, how they want to build different strategies, different philosophies, to play a small part in that has been a great educational experience that I hopefully will carry with me into the next project that comes along.
Maybe you can convince Galaxy and LAFC to start looking into the Armenian community a little bit more. I'm sure there's a ton of talented players that play in Glendale.
Yeah, they'll call me every now and then. They'll call me to try to get a beat on certain Armenian players, and they were close on a couple. It's just funny because the Armenian player now is no longer a hidden commodity. Like, you have Armenians that are now making big money in Europe and are playing at a really high level. So now it costs a lot more money to bring Armenian guys in. So they're actually close on a couple players, but they end up getting more money elsewhere and decide to go somewhere else. But they're definitely taking a notice. I'm eager for sure to get the next Armenian into the league.
Well, speaking of Armenians, unfortunately, there haven't been many Armenians in the MLS. But for the most part, the ones that have been in the MLS and in the league in general have been successful. So we have Pasadena native Yura Movsisyan, who was an MLS Cup winner with RSL in 2009. We have Haru Karapetyan, who holds the record for the fastest hat trick in the MLS, 5 minutes. And we currently have Diego Rossi Masharlian, who plays for the Uruguayan national team, but he is ethnically Armenian and he's killing it with LAFC. And obviously there's yourself. So there's clearly a history of successful Armenian players in the MLS. Why don't more Armenians try to come play here?
I think they are trying. I think it's just a matter of finding the right fit, and in some cases it's a matter of the leadership at each club, like, having that comfort, right? Like, you need to have that comfort with the coach, with the GM. And that's kind of the next challenge for me, is we haven't had any Armenians in any front office positions at any MLS club. So I'm hoping that down the line, if I'm able to get there, I can basically promise and guarantee you that I will be looking into that market for sure. So I don't know the exact reason why. Like I said, I think we've been close a few times here in recent years, but the market in Europe sometimes seems more attractive to some players, even with, especially like the Armenian National Team players, the travel from US to Europe, even just from getting called in, is a lot. And that's a physical burden as well. So I think it'll happen. It's knocking on the doorstep, and God willing, if I'm in one of those positions, I promise it'll happen.
So you travel to Armenia often, and you've even put on a clinic for young Armenian girls who are aspiring footballers on your trip in 2017. Are there any plans for an Alecko Academy in Yerevan? And can you help our boy Chadens out and bring him on board as a coach? He has a UEFA C license.
Yeah, I'll say first of all, going back to Armenia has been such an amazing, rewarding experience, and I did work with the Goals organization to put on a clinic for the girls there, many of them who are orphaned, and just kind of raising stature of girls soccer and women's soccer in Armenia, because I think that's been something that's been neglected in the past. But yeah, when I got to spend some time there and even meet some of the professional coaches and the national team coaches, yeah, it definitely had my wheels turning about, man. I need to start something, some sort of academy or clinic or camp or something to make sure I'm giving back to the Armenian community and kind of creating that bridge to the U.S. So hopefully it's in the works. I'm honestly too busy right now to totally like commit myself to it. I would need a lot of help, but it's definitely something that's in the pipeline. And absolutely, the next time I go to Armenia, which hopefully will be in the near future in 2021, I will definitely be getting more involved and having more serious conversations to make that a reality. We also, the last time I was there, I played in the Pan-Armenian Games, and I think I was like the oldest player that was there. And my team convinced me. I said, guys, I'm 38. I don't know how much longer I can compete with these young guys, but I promised them I'll give them one more go around. So next summer, if we have the Pan-Armenian Games, I'll definitely be there as a player as well. So that'll be a fun experience.
How is that even fair?
It's definitely fair. I'm old now, man. I'm old. So we had
age doesn't kill that instinct.
No, but Father Time does. So it's one of those where I loved it to just be able to share the field with those guys, and it was mind blowing and so humbling for me, because at the Pan-Armenian Games you're playing against all these different Armenians from different countries, right? So we played the Armenians from Kuwait, from Argentina, from Russia, from here, there, and I was blown away by how many of Armenians in other countries knew who I was. Like it didn't register with me that they would even know who I was, and so many guys were like, coming up to me after the game to take pictures and tell me that they watched my games and that I inspired them. Where I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know about this whole, new ecosystem out there. And that's what, it fills my heart, and it makes me be like, man, I need to do more. I need to do more, because, the more we can share our story and inspire the next generation, it's going to pay itself forward, and we're all going to be happy. When I'm fat and old and on a rocking chair, I want to see, tens and hundreds of Armenians playing professional soccer all around the world.
That's so great to hear. That's so awesome. Now, speaking about Armenian football structure, we have been talking about what the Armenian national team was like during your career and stuff. But now, luckily, the national team, the senior national team has considerably improved, right? We have seen the results. We can see them play, and it's beautiful, really. Do you happen to follow the Armenian national team, Alecko?
Yeah, of course. Always watch whenever I can. Had a chance to meet one of the coaches. Obviously, they brought a whole coaching contingency from Spain that I think has done a phenomenal job. I got to watch them work last summer. I watched the U17 and U20 Armenian national teams playing, and I saw some of the talented kids that were coming up, and the way the coaches were working with them. And it was a huge project. To be honest, I was a little unsure in the beginning how it was gonna merge, and if just culturally if it would mesh. And yeah, I think this year the results speak for themselves, where the team has done an incredible job, the coaches have done an incredible job. And I think the federation is in a much better place than it was before. I did have a conversation, I believe, with the new president um, in the summer.
Mr. Melikpekyan.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for sure to continue those conversations. I have a standing invitation for him to come to New York to visit the MLS offices. Obviously, the pandemic is lasting a whole lot longer than we all anticipated, but I'm really eager to pass along any of my knowledge to help the Armenian Federation any way that I can, and hopefully in the future we'll have more collaboration. So that's definitely something that is on my radar.
Yes.
So let's say manager Joaquin Caparros calls you and asks you, I don't know, do you want to be my senior advisor or something regarding Armenian footballers? Would you join Caparros's coaching staff?
Of course. Obviously, I would not leave my current day job here in New York at MLS, but if there was a way that we could work it out where I could do consulting for them on the side and it didn't interfere with my current position, then I would be more than happy to. And if it was something more than that, I would absolutely consider it and try to find a way to make it all work.
That's beautiful. As you know, we have won the Group C2. We are group winners, as we love to say on this podcast already. We went undefeated for 5 consecutive games, which is crazy. And but now we got a tough draw for the World Cup qualifiers, right? We got Germany, Romania, Iceland, our well-known Macedonia, and last but not least, Liechtenstein. What are your thoughts about this specific group we got, and do we have a chance to win it? What would it take, as to you? What do you think it would take for us to beat this group?
We have to dream big. Man, because we have ability. Our players have shown that they have ability, and the beautiful thing about football, the beautiful thing about soccer is, on any given day, if those 11 players that are on the field and the 7 or 11 more that are on the bench or in the stands come together, you can accomplish amazing things. And it's not about being better than each. Like if we compare Armenia to Germany, right? It's not about comparing each individual player to each German player and saying like, oh, they're better than us, right? It's about how you come together on that day when you compete. And it's a tall order for sure. It's an uphill battle. It's going to take a miracle, but I believe in miracles, man. And I truly believe that, we came close for the Euros, what was it, 4 years ago, right? Where, I think we kind of almost shocked ourselves a little bit. So I hope with that experience, it now has changed the culture within us to think, it's no longer impossible because we already came so close once. Now we have to have that mentality. And with guys like Henrik Mkhitaryan playing at Roma, at Arsenal, at Manchester United, now he knows he's played with these guys that we're going up against, these top players in the world. And he's done well against them. He's competed with them and against them. So his leadership is going to be huge to inspire confidence in the rest of the squad to know that they can compete with these guys. And it's now, because so much of it is mental, right? Usually when you're going up against guys that on paper are better than you, you're already defeated mentally that you don't belong on the same field with them. So you have to erase that from your head when you step on the field to give yourself a chance. And I think now with the different successes of different players in Germany and Russia and Ukraine and in Italy and all over Europe, I think now they're going to have that confidence to think like, okay, we're going to step on the field as equals, and we have 90 minutes to see who the best man is.
I love that approach. I love that spirit. But we are about Mkhitaryan, right? Let's take him out of the picture for a minute. And I want to know who Alecko Eskandarian thinks is a standout Armenian player. Could it be from today, from the future? Any Armenian player who you consider to be interesting, particularly?
Yeah, I really loved And I want to look up the guy's name right now, actually, because
We can help you out in that
maybe
one.
you guys will know. But the guy who, I'll tell you right now.
We know every single player there is to know Armenian related, so don't worry about it.
The guy I
got you
really
covered.
like is Bayramian.
Oh,
Oh, Joren, yeah,
Yeah, I like Jorge Bayramian. I like Tigran.
the curly devil.
You know,
And
Tigran Barsegan had the most assists in the UEFA Nations League.
Yeah.
Crazy
No,
statistic.
Tigran's a guy that, like I said, has been on the radar. I can confirm that he's been on the radar of MLS clubs as well. And yeah, he's done
He's
fantastic.
been to LA a couple times.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot more interest, but yeah, those two guys out on the wings, I really like the way they've played. I still think we need more quality up front with the strikers. I know we have the young kid who has a lot of potential, but I think if we get that consistent goal scorer, you're going to see some special things from our group.
If you haven't heard of him, Vahan Bichakchian, he plays for MSK Zelina in Slovakia. He is, in our opinion, I think we have a unanimous opinion on this podcast that kid is going to be the next best.
He's the tall guy, yeah?
No, he's very short.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
okay, then I haven't seen him. I've seen the tall guy who's also young. I forget his name.
Tall guy who's also
Which
Eric,
one? Was
Eric
it
Vahan.
Balekian, the one from Argentina?
Yeah.
He's good too. Yeah,
He's my boy.
He's
We're
good.
obsessed.
I thought he was just, a little bit inconsistent, but for sure has potential. I haven't seen the shorter guy that you're talking about, so I need to watch him.
Yep, he's 21 years old. He just made his senior national team debut during the UEFA Nations League. He gave the winning assist in the last match against.
Okay.
Macedonia, yeah.
You should look him up. He's going to be a very, very special player.
He actually trained with Fiorentina for a few months, and he was set to sign with Fiorentina, but he ended up choosing Žilina in Slovakia because the youth system in Žilina is great. I mean, they have been exporting many players abroad to top leagues in Europe, so I think it was a good decision.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah. So sometimes it's not about the name of the club; it's about the path to get to the right club.
Exactly.
So I agree with that.
It's a new method, kind of, in a way. Like, it's something to focus on. As in, like, how we mentioned before with the player development. It's something we really push in the youngsters to do it.
And that's something that we're doing with MLS as well. And you see now with, Alphonso Davies being sold to Bayern Munich for $20 million and now being one of the top left backs in the world. If he was still playing in MLS, people would say, no, he's not that good and this and that. And now it's opening up a lot of people's eyes to think, wow, this guy played in MLS for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And maybe we didn't give him enough credit. And now you look at Tyler Adams and Miguel Almiron and this guy, that guy. And now all of a sudden, that's how you build, the infrastructure of a league and the reputation of the league. And that's where, youth development is so important to our league as well, as we try to grow on the world stage, not just to convince the top talent to come, but to produce the top talent and be able to have them funnel into some of the top teams in the world. It's only going to help our league prosper. So it's something that's happening all around the world, and it's extremely important.
I think this will be a difficult question. In looking at Inter, for example, like a new established club, how do you find a correlation between an Armenian team doing something very similar, and also how do you find it if Armenian players found an opportunity like that in abroad, like in America, like specifically in MLS?
What do you mean by how do I feel about it? Like in terms
the correlation between how a new established club can create more opportunities for players to develop, and how us as Armenians can do it abroad or in Armenia. Of course, it depends on the resources, but abroad I think would be more flexible.
Yeah, I think it's all about the right opportunities for different players, and it's not a one size fits all thing. Like, you can't say, okay, we're going to do this, so this is going to work for every player. It's not.
Yeah.
Some players need to be at home. Some players need to get away from home. Some players need to be challenged. Some players need to be loved, right? Like, you're dealing with humans. So it's not like you just wave a magic wand and it fixes everything. So I think first and foremost, the important part for Armenian footballers is to fix the culture and the mentality. That to me is the most important thing, because when you now have a different mentality showing up to training every day, knowing that you're dreaming or aspiring to be something bigger than what's just in front of you, right? That's so important, because you can fall victim of your own environment, where you can just say, I'm the best player in Yerevan, so I don't need to work hard anymore. That's a different mentality than saying, okay, I'm the best player in Yerevan, but I'm not even close to being the best player in Brazil or Portugal or Germany. What are those guys doing, right? And if I can be exposed to that and see that, and whether it's hearing it from my coaches, from my family, from my opponents, that is now a different mentality when you go to train every day. Now you're thinking, shoot, what I thought was good isn't good enough. And now when you already have that mentality and now that chip on your shoulder, and that obsession to get to that next level, that's when I think true development happens. So whether it happens in your own backyard or whether you have to go somewhere abroad to do it, that mentality is what carries with you. That's why you see so many top Brazilian players, top Argentine players. No matter where you have Brazilians in Moscow that are killing it.
Yeah.
You think they are comfortable in Moscow? No chance.
No.
Right? But they have a mentality already of where they come from. Some of these guys in favelas, they know soccer is my avenue out to a better life. And they have that already ingrained in their mentality. So when you take them to anywhere in the world, they're going to show up, play with that joy, and express themselves, and play like their lives depend on it, because in some cases it does. So for me, if we fix that culture and that mentality piece, everything else will sort itself out.
Yeah, I think us as a podcast, that's what we're trying to aim as well. We're trying to push the mentality of also of our listeners to believe that us as an Armenian national team, we're actually going to reach top level at some point. The more we push, the more we do. How do you find it? What do you find as a difficulty, as something challenging to do it with diasporans? Because most of us are diasporans. What do you think?
I think
Is it this mentality abroad and all over the world?
Yeah, I think the big challenge is getting the right people in place. Like I said, it's been awesome to see the coaching contingency from Spain going to Armenia and helping out those youngsters, and to see new leadership in the federation. It's been such a huge step in the right direction. However, don't think that the rest of the world is just going to stop and let us catch up, right? They're now also investing more and more and putting more resources to stay ahead. So we've made great strides, but we have to just keep on going. And that unfortunately involves resources and money and opportunities. But I know for a fact that once you start producing top level players, clubs and fans and sponsors around the world will take notice. And once you're able to produce more Mkhitaryan's of the world, and you're able to do it on a consistent basis, the money will start coming in, the resources will start coming in, and people will take it a lot more serious. So it's up to us to just make sure that we don't, celebrate our success and think that we don't have to do anything more. Soccer is always evolving, man. You always have to do more and more with less sometimes. So we have to
and this
continue to think
applies
outside
to
the
more
box.
than football, right?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
It can be taken to life.
100%, 100%. And listen, part of what we talked about, right, is, having that pride in our culture, especially with everything that's going on right now, to know that the rest of the world is not going to give us a helping hand. We're seeing that firsthand right now. No one is going to go out of their way to help us. So we need to help each other and help ourselves. So I think the more we can stick together, empower each other. I think in the past there was always a little bit of ego stuff as well, if I'm not mistaken, whether it was like, diasporan Armenians versus Hayastansi versus Parskahai, Lipanai, like there was always like these different little things, right? Or like different organizations of, this is Homenemen, this is AGBU, this is that. At the end of the day, we're all Armenian and all we have is each other. So we have to cast all that aside and work together to look after each other and elevate each other. So regardless of who it is, and I appreciate you guys, what you're doing with your platform as well, and for inviting me on, because if there's one thing that I've learned through all this is that we need to be unified. And if we come together with a unified cause, we have so many brilliant, talented people that we could accomplish some amazing things.
I think that's well said. It was amazing what you said, and I want to continue with this discussion. That during this war, you were very vocal about what was going on, and despite many Armenian celebrities like yourself having considerable amounts of following, many people weren't and still aren't aware of the events, unfortunately. What difficulties did you encounter during this time, and like how did you feel overall the issue was brought up in social media and the average population?
Well, there's different parts to it, right? Because on one hand, I was really, really frustrated, sad, angry, disheartened by the lack of media coverage, the lack of politicians or leadership speaking about the atrocities and what was happening, the lack of just humanity displayed by the general population. And it really, really affected me in a way that I can't truly explain or describe. But I would say the same way I was on the field, where that switch goes off, where you're like, okay, if you're doubting me, now I'm going to show you. That's kind of the same attitude I had on social media and through my own platform, to be like, you're not going to shut me up. Like, no one is going to, like, people are, if you know me or if you follow me, you're going to know about this. You have no choice. Because the same way I said in my playing career, when I said, you can't blame like not knowing about me or not scouting me or anything like that. Like, I'm going to make you learn about me. That was my mentality of, I'm going to make you learn about these innocent people that are being killed and displaced, and this absolute inhumane attack on Armenia and on Artsakh. So, it was really tough. I would say the silver lining, though, is that I've never been so proud to be Armenian, and I've never been so proud of the diaspora, of all these people coming together to make noise, to unify in a sense that we're not going to go down without making some noise, and we're not going to go down without a fight. So I'm really, really proud of all of us coming together. Now, unfortunately, we're at a point where it's reached some sort of a resolution, if you want to call it that. And now I see again that have a lot of different voices coming forward, and again, a lot of different opinions coming forward. And so at this moment, I'm kind of in a learning phase where I'll be honest, I never followed Armenian politics too closely. So I've been hesitant to attach my name to any sort of politician or leader, because I simply don't know enough and I don't know who to trust yet. So I'm just trying to gather as much information as possible But I think what I am clear on is that I want what's best for our people, our future, and our history, right? And so if we can find a way to all come together to make sure we're appointing the right people in the right roles to ensure that that's all coming together, we need to all unify as one to agree on that. But it's going to be a long battle. And in terms of other influencers, celebrities, whatever you want, you have to be passionate about it to speak on it. I'll never hold it against someone else for not speaking on something that I believe in, because they have to believe in it in order for them to feel comfortable talking about it. And just as the same way I would want someone to understand my own phase that I'm going through right now of just trying to learn more and understand more about the current situation there. So I think we just have to be respectful of each other instead of pointing fingers and alienating each other. I think it's more about coming together and educating each other and drawing people in, because I know a lot of Armenians who, are so proud of their Armenian heritage, but for whatever reason, they have felt alienated or pushed away, or they've been felt that they're not Armenian enough, or different things like that, which, hurts my heart, because, like I said, I've spent, and I'll share my own anecdote, right? Like, I grew up in New Jersey. Armenian was my first language. I spoke English with an accent. I spent so many years educating, Americans or just people that I encountered about Armenia and about the culture. And it's funny that there are Armenians that I meet to this day who don't know me personally, but just, had heard about me. And they have their own assumption that I'm like a whitewashed American, like whatever. And then they see that I speak Armenian. They're like, oh, I didn't know you spoke and this and that. And I'm like, and it's almost now they like look at me in a different way, right? And they are more respectful about it. But I'm like, regardless of what it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter.
If we have the same ways blood, to be Armenian.
Yeah, exactly. We're all as one. Our history dictated that we're all spread out and all over the place, right? Our own tragedies dictated that. So to hold that against another Armenian doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm hopeful that we can all come together. And if you see with any of the messages that I post, it's never about alienating. It's always about unifying and educating. And I believe that with love and education, we'll grow as a diaspora and as a people.
Were there any non-Armenians in the football world reaching out to you and asking about what was going on?
Tons. Adam mentioned earlier with this signed jersey auction that I'm putting together now to help raise funds for Armenia. It's been amazing to reach out to so many different athletes, all of them non-Armenian, who have been asking like, hey, I've been following your posts, I've been reading the news, like what is going on? And they have a general sense of just wanting to help. And I think that's something that's within athletes, right? Because every athlete, especially professional athletes, you have to overcome something to get to where you were, whether it's overcoming odds, people doubting you or whatever it is. Like, you had to have at one point an underground or underdog, like killer mentality to like rise above and almost like beat the oppressor to show yourself.
David and Goliath.
I think when pro athletes see the story of Armenians and what they're going through, they can relate. And so many of them have been very generous in donating these items because they can relate to the Armenian people and they want to fight for the Armenian cause.
Mm-hmm. You're a year older of fellow Armenian Iranian Antranik Teimourian, who's the former English Premier League, played 2 World Cups, first and only Christian captain in the history of Iran. Have you ever got the opportunity to talk to him or any other Armenian world-class footballers like yourself to possibly arrange a charity exhibition match for the cause?
Yeah, I've never met Andranik Teimourian. obviously, have heard great stories about him, and I believe he's even paid tribute to my father for kind of helping to pave the way for Armenians and Christians with Timeli in Iran. Um, when the war or attack first started, that was actually one of the first things I wanted to do was to kind of get everyone together and organize a charity match. But the more I thought about it, with the current climate in the world and not being able to travel or go anywhere, it didn't make any sense at all. Because I was like, we can't even have any fans at professional matches. How are you going to put together a charity match and have people, try to travel and things like that? So I kind of put those plans to the side. But yeah, I would absolutely love to collaborate with all of the Armenian notable Armenians, not just even footballers, influencers as well, to try to organize something when this is all over and when we can travel. I think it'll be really important for us to put something special together that will get the world's attention.
Look, we're not that influential yet, but we would like to be there and help in any way that we can.
You guys are invited. You're in. No problem.
Maybe we can commentate. Maybe we can commentate over a game.
Absolutely. Listen, man, we need to tap into our own. So you're seeing it a lot more now in every different industry, whether it's tech or acting or singing or dancing or business or politics. Like we're starting to see a lot of different Armenians, rising up and showing their worth in the industry. So we have to bring everyone together to celebrate all of us.
Yeah, it's like we have to boost each other, right?
Yeah, and that's something that's that I felt like we haven't done a great job with. I feel like we always try to pick and choose like flaws or it's literally part of our culture as well to just have banter and downplay things, but in my mind,
be suspicious, right?
Yeah, and in my mind, we have to kind of put that aside and just uplift each other and put ourselves on a pedestal.
Totally, yeah. We were talking about the pandemic earlier a little bit. You actually mentioned it, right? So I wanna know, what have you been up to this unprecedented, unreal, kind of surreal science fiction 2020 we've been having?
Working. I've just been, I think everything got put into perspective just with regard to my family and making sure they were okay first and foremost. So I spent a good deal of time in New Jersey at my parents' house to make sure they were good. And in some ways, I became a little dictator at home because I didn't let them leave the house, and I told them, whatever you need, I'll take care of it. But they were getting frustrated because they wanted to leave and wanted to go shopping and things like that. But it brought us closer together as well. Just to, like I said, you kind of see the people that mean the most to you, and you try to cherish the moments you have, because anytime tragedies like this happen, you realize how fragile we are and how it could all end any day. So for me, the priority and the focus has been just spending time with my family, making sure that they're okay, and doing everything that I can to help them and protect them, and then just working as well. Obviously working at MLS, our season got shut down, and we faced a huge hurdle to kind of get back into play. And it was a lot of work and hours and dedication that was put into getting the league back up and running, creating the bubble, creating testing protocols that allowed us to now finish the season as safely as possible. And I think we set a benchmark for all leagues around the world to follow, and did some amazing things. So very proud to be part of that group to help get our league up and running, and to help soccer here in the U.S. To continue to grow.
Yeah, it's kind of been a self-rediscovery gap year for many of us. And you already mentioned your parents. You're a very family-oriented man, as you yourself have been pointing it out. And it's a very Armenian thing to do, and something that we love, going back to basics. You seem to go on a hike, right, with your dad quite often. You take pictures by a lake, beautiful pictures, the sightseeing. Is there kind of a story behind that hike, that hobby of yours, if you can call it that? And why is it special? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, you're the first person to ask me that, so I've never given this answer, but yeah, it's no secret that almost we try to go every Sunday. I'll go on a hike with my dad, and the way it started and why it's been so special is I when I had my last concussion, and I told you I was in a really dark place for about 2 years where I couldn't do anything. When I talk about how debilitating the injury was, I couldn't even go outside. I couldn't get my heart rate up, so I couldn't go for walks, I couldn't go for runs, I couldn't work out, I couldn't watch too much TV, I couldn't be on a computer too long, I couldn't be in the sun. Like everything that made me feel alive killed me. And you get into a deep mental state of depression where you're like, if I can't do any of these things, what can I do? What is my life now? And I hit a point where it was really, really, really tough to try to understand, like, what do I even have to offer if I can't, if I can't enjoy life, or if I can't even, properly express myself. And yeah, it was really, really tough to get these bad migraines and bad headaches and vertigo anytime that I tried to exert myself. And to give you context, like to show you how bad it was, I passed out just at a family dinner simply because we were telling stories and laughing too much. Kind of like too many different voices and laughter kind of was overload for my brain, that I fell in the back of my chair and passed out. And my entire family, my uncles, everyone was like, what is going on? Like, it was one of those where you're just like, man, how can I continue living this way? So, going through that, at a certain point, I learned that I had to become my own doctor, right? And I met with a neurologist who said that, you can slowly exert yourself and it's okay to get headaches, as long as you don't wake up with one the next day, right? So it kind of gave me like a new goal. Like, okay, I can now do some things and it'll be okay to mentally prepare myself to deal with the bad headaches, and just pray that the next morning I don't wake up with one. So little by little, I started to almost like retrain myself how to do anything, like go for walks or whatever. And one of the first things I did was I went for a hike with my dad. And my dad convinced me, because I was like, Dad, I don't want to go. And then all of a sudden I get a headache, or if I pass out, on the top of a mountain or whatever, like, I was like, I psyched myself out that I'm like, I can't do it and it's going to be bad. I can never do this again. And my dad was like, no, whatever it is, I don't care. Just come. Don't worry. If you pass out, we'll carry you down. Don't worry. Like, just come. And he convinced me, and I went, and just the feeling of being able to sweat again and feel sore and like exert myself felt amazing. And I had a headache. I got a pretty bad headache, but the next morning I didn't have one. So I said, you know what? Let's do that again. And we started going more and more and more, but I needed that kick in the ass from my dad to like convince me to even like to be vulnerable in that way. So that's how the significance started with the hike. And then if you fast forward, this is a few years ago, my dad, actually, while we were on a hike, and I've never told anyone this story because my dad doesn't want it public, but while we were on a hike, I noticed my dad at one point kind of lagging a little bit. And I was like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, like I'm okay. I just, and my dad's very active, fit, plays soccer. And he was like, yeah, I think I got elbowed. So like my rib hurts a little bit because I played soccer the other day. Someone elbowed me. So I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't heard you complain about it. He's like, yeah, no, only when I like run, I kind of feel it. And I'm like, show me where it is. And he kind of showed me, and we're walking. And I stopped. We just started the hike. And I said, Dad, we're going home. And he's like, what are you talking about? We just started the hike. And I'm like, no, we're going home. And he's like, why?
Good call.
And I'm like, I think it's your heart. It's not your rib. And he's like, what are you he started laughing. What are you talking about? And I'm like, I just have it in my head. When you showed me where it is on the left side, I think it's your heart. It's not your rib. And he's like, get out of here. You're crazy. He wanted to keep going. And I'm like, I grabbed him. I said, no, I'm not joking. We're going home. So we went home, and I told my mom. We set up a bunch of appointments. And sure enough, my dad had to have like quadruple bypass surgery, emergency, like the next month. And it was crazy because all the surgeons, doctors that we saw were like, you know, if you kept on going up that mountain, you know, who knows if that would have been it, you know, if the heart was getting more pressure. So that was like another moment there that we had where it was kind of like a come to Jesus moment, and I believe it was truly fate. And then obviously when my dad went through that surgery and the extensive recovery, it was then his turn of not being able to do all the things that he loved and playing and being so active. And so I'll never forget the moment where we first started to go back on a hike together for him to get exercise and build up his heart and build those muscles. So it's been a very personal thing for both of us that I think has helped us through two really difficult times in our lives.
Wow, that's great to hear. I hope your dad is doing okay, and I hope he's recovered from that. I'm sure being a lifelong soccer player, both of you guys health-wise are very healthy individuals as much as you can be. And you said does he still play?
Still playing. I'll tell you this: when he got the heart surgery, and the first time we went up the mountain afterward, you know, when like he kind of graduated to like being able to do that because he had to ride the bike and walk and all this stuff. So it was months and months later that finally the doctor was like, okay, it'll be okay for him to go hiking. And when we first went, every 5 seconds, I'm like, are you okay? You okay? You sure you're okay? You sure you're okay? And the first thing my dad says is like, man, this is the first time in years I feel like I can breathe. Like I feel like I'm in better shape. Like I could breathe normally now. And it just gets you thinking like how much time that he was probably struggling with. And I learned a lot about the heart as well, that he was probably struggling to breathe, but he just probably thought, I'm just getting older, right? I'm just getting older a little bit. But it was actually like a much bigger problem. So now he goes hiking with me, and he's like, oh, I feel even better than before, so I want to go even faster. So he's in great shape. Thank you for asking.
That's great. That's great to hear. So we did a little deep dive on your Instagram. That's how we found the hiking pictures and kind of connected the dots. But another interesting thing that we saw was a picture you had with Ronaldinho, and in that picture you had thanked Hristo Stoichkov, and you trained with Barcelona. What was that all about?
Yeah, crazy, man. My life is crazy. My rookie year playing for DC United, my teammate was Hristo Stoichkov. And Hristo, I think, took a liking to me because I was left-footed like him. And I was the youngest guy on the team. So being the youngest guy on the team, he was always, picking on me in certain ways, but also helping me. And during that summer, Barcelona came to play some friendlies in the U.S. And when they knew, obviously, Hristo was in DC, the entire Barcelona team like bowed down to Hristo. He's such a club legend over there. I'm not kidding. Literally, all the guys on Barcelona were taking pictures with Hristo, getting his signature, like praising him. And Hristo was one of my favorite players as well. I had a Hristo Stoichkov poster in my room when I was a kid. So it was really, really cool just to see that the respect they were paying him and how much clout he still had at Barcelona. And all of a sudden, while Barcelona was there, they were there for a week, Hristo pulls me aside one day and he says, listen, I've recommended you to the coaches at Barcelona that you're a top American talent that they need to take a look at. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I'm not ready for Barcelona. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, listen, trust me. They asked me if there were any players on the team that that I felt had potential to play in Europe. And he picked me and my roommate at the time, who was a goalkeeper as well, another young player. And he goes, so I picked you two guys, and you guys are going to go train with Barcelona tomorrow. And me and my roommate are like, holy shit, like, this is insane. So I didn't even believe it. I was like, oh, man, this might be a joke that he's playing on us or something. But sure enough, next day he told us where to go. And we went there, we showed up, and the kit man gave us the Barcelona kits, put them on, and next thing you know, I'm juggling and playing 5v2 with Ronaldinho, Quaresma, like all these incredible, legendary players at Barcelona, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, like pinching myself, like I can't believe this.
Wow. Did you ever get a call from them? Anything?
No. So we trained, and basically, I don't think Barcelona even expected us to be there. I think Christo forced us to go. I think Christo was just kind of like, they're coming, because
kind of force you
out
of
we
your
were there as
comfort
extras.
zone.
You know, we were there as extra players in case somebody got hurt or if they needed something. So we warmed up, we did the whole warm up and all that stuff, and then as they started, they were like, just keep the ball passing around, stay warm in case we need you, depending on where the training session would evolve into. So we just stayed on the side and watched. And at some point during the game, one of the goalkeepers got hurt. So my roommate actually got to jump into the inter squad game and play. But I just chilled on the sidelines and watched. And honestly, I was more than happy to chill on the sideline and watch, because I was like, man, I do not want to be the guy that's bringing the level down, because it was so fast-paced and high level that I was like, oof, this is going to be tough to jump into. But it was amazing just to even like warm up and train with them for a day.
That's interesting to hear that there's another Armenian connection to Barcelona, other than there being a couple of diasporan Armenians that have played for Barcelona. We have a young Eric Vardanyan who currently plays in Sochi, Russia. He was in La Masia for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So he didn't end up really making the cut. Went back to Punic, played in the Armenian League, and now he made his big move to Sochi. But he's still young. He's still 22, 23 years old. But it's cool to know that someone else, some other Armenian player, just randomly ended up kicking the ball around with some of the, if not one of the best teams of all time. That's crazy to hear.
The greatest, yeah. It was an incredible experience. I remember Frank Rijkaard was the coach at the time as well, and it was it was one of those moments that you're just pinching yourself and you're like, I can't believe this is real.
Well,
so it was one of Messi's earlier years.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, if Messi would have been part of that group, and I know Rijkaard is the manager who gave Messi his start. I don't believe Messi was on the roster when they traveled to the U.S. at that time, but I believe it was probably the next season or maybe at the end of that season that Messi got his shot too. So
crazy.
Maybe if I got my chance in the training session, maybe I would have been the Armenian Messi, but
well, we'll never know. We'll never know. Well, speaking of pinching yourself, because you probably feel like you're dreaming a lot. You're an avid and vocal Arsenal supporter. My condolences. I know the league table is not looking too pretty. What is life like for Alecko as an Arsenal fan?
I've got the match on in the background right now. We just started against Burnley, so you know what? It's not easy, but I love it, man. I love Arsenal. I love everything they stand for, and you see so many different supporters that gravitate to a club because they win, right? And they become fans. And for me, I became a fan because of their culture and their philosophy. And so winning is cherry on top. but it's the club that I support and that I love and the way of doing things. For sure, over the last 5 years, I think they've gone away from how they historically built their squad, and it's been tough to regain that identity. But I do love Arteta, and I believe in the vision that he has and what he's doing. And hopefully, if we could offload some big name, big money players that are cancers, then I think we have a brighter future ahead.
We're not going to name names, obviously.
Don't need to name names.
But well, okay. So you're Armenian. You're an Arsenal supporter. Mkhitaryan famously made the move to Arsenal. What are your thoughts on that? Like when that happened?
I felt like it was like my dream was to play for Arsenal someday, right? And to see another Armenian get that opportunity, it felt like my dream came true as well. Like it was
secondhand dream.
Yeah, man, it was so special to see that happen. And he had some great performances, but ultimately in the end, it was tough to see him, unhappy and struggling. And but the fact that it even happened, that it even came to life, I believe gave hope and inspired so many Armenians, including myself. So it was an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Mkhitaryan, I believe he just needed to get out of England. He was not happy. I think on a personal level, I believe Mourinho was the one to ruin England for him. So he needed the change of air, right?
Yeah, listen, every player is different, and obviously he has quality.
I'm not politically correct, by the way.
What's that?
I'm not politically correct.
No, that's good. That's good. Neither am I, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because you got to call it how it is. That's the only way people look at you as being genuine. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I think he needed to get out. Listen, if we're being totally honest, he could have handled things better as well, But the mental, people need to understand the mental state of a player is so important. So if they're not in the right place mentally, it's going to be tough for them to have their heart into it and give their all. And I think that's what you saw with Mkhitaryan is, even when he did well, even when he was starting or coming off the bench, you could tell a part of him just was not very happy. So yeah, that's unfortunately part of the game. And I'm at least happy that he was able to find himself another opportunity where he was able to recapture it all.
Yeah, but if you were number 9, you would be really happy. You would take that spot in an instant, huh?
100%. 100%.
So we've been finding out more about who Alecko Eskandarian is, like in real life, right? And we want to know a little more stories like the ones you've been telling us, but one in particular, right? I remember a couple of years ago, I was watching TV because I like my fellow Armenian compatriots on TV, I often watch, I don't know, random shows, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and so I'm watching Kim entering this Armenian themed restaurant, which I find out later on is famous in Los Angeles, right? And she said she had a date set up by I don't know whom with an Armenian sportsman. She said he's good looking, he's a good guy. I don't know what she said, right? And okay, who might this guy be? And then there you are on TV. I remember having watched you several weeks earlier, prior that show was aired. Hey, that's Eskandarian. What happened there?
Ooh. It was a long time ago. I struggle to remember that even happened. But,
yeah, right.
But listen, I'm a proud Armenian, and I would love to settle with a fine Armenian woman someday. So of course I'm going to explore those opportunities. And
applications open. Okay.
When I was approached by Kim's mom. She basically tried to set me up with her daughter, and I agree. So
She's the one that pulls all the strings, man. She's the one
she definitely pulled all the strings. She called me out of the blue one day, introduced herself, said, I'm Kris Jenner, I'm Kim Kardashian's mother, and I would like to get to know you a little bit because I want you to go on a date with my daughter. And I said, okay. So we had a couple conversations. Ended up speaking to, I believe, Courtney and Chloe as well, that were on like speakerphone, like just asked me a ton of questions. And yeah, they seemed super cool. And so yeah, later on that night, Kim called me, and then we went out. So it was a cool experience. Obviously, very surreal. Not the type of date that I'm used to with the cameras around and like an audience. Stuff. But at the end of the day, it was really, really cool to meet her and get to know her on a personal level, and truly see that she's a really down-to-earth person with a good heart. So really, really grateful for the opportunity and to meet her, and have nothing good things to say about her.
Yeah, she does seem like a genuine person.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you talk about? Let's get into the details a little bit.
Some conversations I think are meant to be private, but just good conversation, man. Just getting to know each other. And I was actually surprised how open she was, because obviously when I saw the cameras, I was like, okay, I need to make sure like I'm sitting straight, that my collar isn't messed up and all this and that. And she was just really cool and chill and opening up, like even talking about past relationships and her opinions on different things, and made me feel really comfortable and at home. And so, I thought she was fantastic. She was great. She made me feel less nervous about it, and I thought we had a great time. Like the date lasted like 4 hours or so. Like it was a long.
That's amazing.
Time. So
it also helps that the food at Carousel is pretty good.
Yeah.
The food was definitely good.
But Rafi's or Carousel? Now this is.
I'm a Rafi's guy.
We know.
What does the Sultani have that makes it so special?
Okay, look, you gotta explain it to them, because Armen's from Argentina and Chadens lives in Cyprus. They didn't, they're not like you and me. They don't get the luxury of Rafi's place.
Listen, I could explain it, but nothing compares to tasting it. So you just have to go and try it. That's the best way.
That's a good counsel. Yeah. So talking about TV, is there maybe a potential career in the making for TV, be it a random reality show, your own sports journalism analysis show? Do you feel maybe it can happen someday?
Joining us, maybe.
That was
who knows?
Definitely not reality TV. I think I'm good with my reality TV. I think I met my quota for reality TV appearances. But in terms of commentating or analysis, broadcasting, things like that, I dabbled into it a little bit. I did a bunch of different things over the years. And it's something that I actually enjoy. I would love to do on the side. It would have to be a bigger gig for it to be full time, but it's something that I enjoy doing. Even recently, I was approached about starting a podcast or different things like that. So we'll see. At some point, I think it'll fall into place. But I do enjoy sharing my stories, my input, my opinions. And if there's an avenue to do so that'll be lucrative, then I'll consider it.
Yeah,
we can't offer you much, but we can.
Oh my God, that last one was an actual listener's question from our listeners, but we have some questions of our own, and it's the lightning round for Alecko Eskandarian.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, so we need you to answer these questions as fast as possible, top of your head, whatever comes to mind. Some of them are going to be a little longer than others, but we're going to try to just keep it bam, 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 flowing. All right, question number 1. Dream five-a-side team, including yourself. Go.
Oof. Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo, R9.
Oh,
Uh,
Snap.
let's go Messi, Zidane, and I'm in there, so I have only one more. Oof.
yeah,
I need a defender. I'll
exactly.
go with Desai.
Ooh.
Oh, La Francaise. Like it. I like it. Balanced, well balanced. Very nice. So best pitch, stadium, or overall game environment, ambiance, whatever you call it, you ever felt in your career, and why?
I have two. One was playing in Seattle against Real Madrid in a friendly where we had, I think,
Nice.
72,000 people there, like incredible,
Wow.
incredible atmosphere. And obviously, I scored a goal in the match. So to score a goal against the greatest team I've played against, arguably the greatest team ever assembled, because that was those Galacticos that won the Champions League
Oh,
a few months prior.
Crazy.
Was an incredible electric atmosphere. And then I'll also say Olympic qualifying in Mexico in Jalisco, where they had 60,000 fans who were just berating us, throwing bags of piss, batteries,
God.
like you name it, just the
Oh,
most
the smell
hostile
must have been
environment
nice.
ever. So those are the two that really stick out for me.
best coach you ever had?
My dad, personally, and then Peter Novak as a professional.
Scariest defender you ever had to face? Ever.
Um, I played, man, I played against both Cannavaro and Nesta, and they were both
Wow.
like unbelievable, different level. So both of those guys.
Best player you've ever met or played against?
Um, it's tough because I played against both Messi and Ronaldo, but they were kind of like I don't know friendly matches. I don't know. I'll say Ronaldinho just because when I played
Mm.
against him at AC Milan, just the things that he's able to do are
Joga
just
bonito.
so they seem like a video game. So I'll say Ronaldinho.
Joga bonito, yeah. It's unparalleled. I'm the restaurant guy, so I'm gonna ask you again about your favorite food, Alecko.
Sultani, Armenian food, man. But it's not
Yes.
just a sultani kebab. It's the appetizer.
Yes.
It's the salad. It's everything. The dessert, like all together. You're actually having like four meals in one. So, yeah, like Rafi's kebab in LA in Glendale. When I go there, I am a satisfied man.
Favorite music, band, singer, or genre?
Whew. Man, I've always been a hip hop guy. But I listen to everything like other than like heavy stuff. Um, I don't know that I have like one favorite band or anything, but I'll just say hip hop.
Hip-hop, okay.
Your favorite place in the world?
Hmm, Armenia.
We could,
Nice.
yeah, we would agree.
So, if you got to meet anyone in world history, whether it's dead or alive, football or not, who would it be and why?
If I got to meet anyone in history,
Yeah,
ooh,
maybe hold a conversation, search.
wow. Man, it's weird because I feel like I've seen a lot of people ask this question, and I always love reading other people's answers, and I've never thought of it myself. So I don't have a good
There's
answer
your
for this.
chance.
Anyone in history? Whew, I would say, you know what? I'll use some recency bias, and I'll say Diego Maradona.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Your biggest accomplishment, it can be football wise or anything personal.
Biggest accomplishment for me is just to make my parents proud, but I'll say going back to school to finish my degree was something that I'm really, really proud of, because, like I said, education is really important to me and my family. And you see so many pro athletes that once they kind of choose athletics as their avenue, they kind of push away from their other side of it. And I'm a huge believer that the whole person has to always develop, not just one side.
Yeah.
So to go back and finish my degree, especially from a prestigious university like University of Virginia, is something that I'm really proud of.
That's brilliant. Congratulations from all of us.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
And last question. From and using all of the experience that you've had in your career, what would you say to any young Armenian that wants to make a career for themselves in football? Whether that's a player, coach, analyst, anything. What one seminal piece of advice can you give a young Armenian?
It's tough because it's multifaceted, but I'll say, dedicate yourself to your craft. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, and be proud of who you are to overcome any odds. Because at the end of the day, mental strength is everything. So with whatever you want to do, be it in sports or academics or any field, I think there are just certain building blocks that you need to instill within yourself to be able to overcome any sort of adversity, because adversity is guaranteed. It's going to come one way or the other, because sometimes even success is adversity. So if you build yourself mentally to a place where you're able to handle all these things, that to me is the key to success. But you have to fix yourself before you can. It's almost like fix yourself before you can express yourself, right? So that to me is my one advice: of get yourself right to be able to handle anything that's thrown your way, and then the sky's the limit.
Completely agree.
Well, agree as well.
It's amazing.
And that concludes our interview with Alecko Eskandarian. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are very happy to have you. You are welcome on this podcast anytime. Feel free to join. We'll always welcome you with open arms. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure. Thank you for all that you guys are doing as well. Keep on making a name for yourself and amplifying all the right Armenian voices. So thank you for everything you guys are doing, and truly proud to be a guest.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
If there's anything you want to talk about, promote social media handles where people can follow you, maybe the charity auction that you're doing, go ahead, throw it out there.
Yeah, that would be the one thing for sure that I would love to spread the word about. Obviously, we're all coming together as a diaspora to try to raise awareness or funds for the people in Armenia, in Artsakh, that are going through this terrible tragedy right now. And anything that we can do to help make their lives easier, especially during the holiday season, is really important and is a priority right now. So in thinking about ways that I can integrate the soccer community and reach out to some of my friends in my network to help, while brainstorming about that, I was able to put together a signed jersey auction. Jerseys are still coming in. I'm still sorting out details because I've never done a jersey auction before, but I'm hopeful in the coming days I will have a website up and running for people to go in and bid. So in the meantime, follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Alecko11, and I'll have all sorts of details on there to bid on some amazing jerseys. Right now we got international stars like Pele, Raul, Marco Senna, obviously Armenian legend Henrik Mkhitaryan. We have his jersey. We have U.S. men's national team and U.S. women's national team stars: Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, Zach Steffen, Tyler Adams. From the women's national team, Rose Lavelle, Megan Rapinoe, Carly Lloyd, Mal Pugh. So I'm truly overwhelmed by the memorabilia, by the items that we've been able to get, hoping to raise as much money as possible. So please spread the word. It'll make a great holiday gift for someone that is a fan of any of these players, and all 100% of the proceeds will go to a great cause. So hoping to get a lot of support on that and raise as much money as possible.
Great. So everyone, you heard it. Go bid. As soon as it comes out. Throw all your money at that this holiday season. Well, that concludes this episode of Football Kentron. Thank you for joining us, Alecko. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.